joining us now from Richmond, fighting Joe Morrissey. Now, by the way, do you know that Joe Morrissey has won something like 250 consecutive jury trials? Like, who does that? He's got a better record on jury trials than I do predicting political winners. He's at 100%. I'm at 97. Joe, good to have you with us, man.
Good morning, John. Thank you for that nice introduction, but let me correct it. While I've won well over 280 jury trials, I won 54 jury trials in a row one time, but not 250. But just last week, won a murder trial in Petersburg, had another murder trial in Richmond before that. So I'm working hard, fighting hard.
All right, 280 jury trials won, and at one point you had a string
54
in a row. I mean, who does that, Joe? That's like, here's the deal. Look, good people sometimes get in a bind. And if you're in a bind, here's what you need to do. You need to call Joe Morris. I tell you, I wouldn't trust my family with anybody else if something happened to me. And that's 804-737-1096, 804-737-1096. Fighting Joe. He's out there for you every day. Okay, Joe Morrissey ran for mayor, as everybody knows, of Richmond 2016, was not successful there, defeated on the first ballot by LeVar Stoney. Joe, we don't know what your political future holds, but here's what we do know. You've got insight. You know what's going on out there. I'm going to start with the Democratic race for governor. New Quinnipiac poll just out showing Tom Perriello with a lead. This is the first poll that showed him ahead. Ralph Northam, on the other hand, came out with his financial statement yesterday and said he raised millions and millions of dollars, and he's got more money than Gillespie on cash on hand. But I tell you what was interesting in his press release, Joe. In their press release, the Ralph Northam camp basically compared their fundraising to Gillespie's, and basically as if the fall campaign had already started. And I guess they forgot they're in a primary race because they never even mentioned Perriello's name, like he doesn't exist. There's something with this campaign that just doesn't feel good to me, Joe, and I think Perriello's going to win, and I'm trying to get somebody to talk me out of it.
Okay. Let me comment on both points that you just made. First of all, at this point, the polling it's seriously flawed for the following reason. It's not polling those people that are going to vote in the primary. Very important, okay? You've got to drill down into, are you going to vote in the primary? Now, traditionally, in a primary, you get 10 to 12%, and that's high. Sometimes you get as low as 2% of the people voting. So of every 10 people polled, only one is voting in the primary. So number one, don't trust the poll unless it's asking, are you going to vote in the June primary? That's key. That's number one. So I think, and then with regard to your second point, Northam is smart. He wants to be dismissive of Perriello by not even mentioning his name and talking about him and Gillespie. Smart move because it makes him seem like I am the eventual Democratic nominee. Not so fast. All right. Here's what I see as the pros and cons. You get a lot of progressive Democrats that vote in the primary that favors Perriello. Now, you get a lot of young people, particularly students, who are progressive that would normally vote for Perriello. But what happens in June?
They're gone.
They're gone. They're not in Richmond like they were at VCU. They are gone, so that hurts them. Similarly, you get a lot of adults, older people that vote in the primaries. And guess what? They're leaning towards Northam, students leaning towards Perriello. Those older people are going to be there in June. So that bodes well in that regard for Northam. And Perriello's got to do this. I mean, I like him, John. Northam is part of that old guard team, Democrats that just insulate themselves from others, and they proclaim themselves as the party of inclusivity, but they're not. Okay, if you're in the clique, you're in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so Perriello needs to do this. He needs to say more than I'm the progressive guy. I'm like Bernie Sanders. Vote for Bernie Perriello. He's got to come up with a strong issue, and he's got to not be afraid to take on the McAuliffes and the Democratic leaders, and I use the word leaders in quotes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's got to come out and with an issue. For example, the state constitution guarantees all of our young children in the state a quality education, and you're not getting it from the McAuliffe, Northern, McEachin camp. Do you follow me?
Yes.
Come out and go strong. That hasn't been done yet, and people have got to say at the end when they're going to the polls, Perriello isn't an outsider, but he's got the guts to make important decisions. Okay, So until and unless he overcomes that, then he's then he's going to face trouble from Northam. He also has to raise more money.
Right.
He's raised a lot of money from one guy. He's got to expand that donor base. So, to that extent, it's definitely the race is still open for either one of those people.
If you had to make a guess right now, who you think is the favorite to win? Not a prediction, because things can change, even with me. I mean, saying if the election were held today, I think Perriello would win, but I might change that come May.
If the election were today, the primary were today, Perriello would win?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I disagree. I think if the election were today, Northam wins because Perriello had. Remember, he's got that strength in a general election. The Quinnipiac poll has him in the general election. That's a general election poll. Mm-hmm. I think he has got the legs to win a general election, but he's got to get past that primary and he's got to develop that base. And I don't think it's there yet. All
right, so it sounds like what you're saying, Joe, based on your analysis, if the election were held today, you think the lieutenant governor would win. North would win.
Wins the primary. And let's be very clear. I'm also saying that Perriello has the ability and the wherewithal to win this primary.
Right.
Okay? You've got to be more than you got to be more than I'm simply the progressive guy. I'm the Bernie Sanders acolyte. Okay.
Right. Got it. Okay.
Let's look at the Republican primary.
Well, Ed Gillespie seems in all of the surveys we have had, yes. Joe, Ed Gillespie seems to have a commanding lead. Plus, here's what I'm predicting. If you look at the cash on hand he's got, he's probably, Joe, going to drop $1.5 million in television in the final 2 weeks. Neither Senator Wagner or Chairman Corey Stewart can match even 1/10 of that. There, he's going to be spending about maybe $200,000, $250 max. He's going to spend $1.5 million to get his name ID up. So he's got the lead now, drops $1.5 million on TV in the final 2 weeks. I don't see a pathway to beat him. How about you?
You're spot on. Gillespie has got the money. He has got the credentials insofar as this guy can do it when they look back and see what happened against Mark Warner. Mm-hmm. Now, remember, when he ran against Mark Warner, that was a down. That's the hardest year to run for a Democrat, and Gillespie, was the senatorial nominee, and he came close. Okay, so he is perceived as the guy that can do it. Mm-hmm. You just said he's got plenty of money on hand. He's going to raise more, and in the final 15, 18 days, he's going to drop a bundle of money, and the others can't match it. Yeah, Gillespie wins. I think Corey Stewart, I would have I know you're a big Trump supporter, and Corey is marketing himself as Trump on steroids. He appeals to a sliver of the Republican base, not enough to overtake Gillespie. Now you got Frank Warner. You know what? I like Frank Warner.
Wagner.
I was with
Wagner.
his now wife, and he in Turkey got to know Frank in the legislature. Kind of a really a bit of a wonk, and I say that in a very flattering, positive way. Hard worker. He's a businessman. has had a lot of success, would, I think, make a very, very good leader in the governor's office, but not enough statewide recognition to beat Gillespie in the primary. So I give the nod to Gillespie winning the primary, and then you've got the general election. Now, you put Gillespie up against either Northam or Perriello in the general election in November. I think, and this is not Joe, a former Democrat, saying, office holder, favoring the Democratic side, but I think the Democrat wins in November. Here's why. I have seen, and you and I have spoken about this, the Democrats are energized now more than they ever have before, and part of it is the angst they feel, rightfully or wrongfully, against Trump. Okay? Really, really energized. Number two, they have energized that Democratic base with a lot of Democratic candidates running in elections in the fall, like something like 66 folks and running right now, more than they've ever had in a long time, and that's going to bring out more Democrats. Number three, you've got a lot of traditionally the party that is not in the White House wins the gubernatorial race in Virginia following the White House election. That's
happened
in the White House.
That's always happened,
and that favors the Democrats.
Right.
Money is not going to be a problem for either party, but I think the Democrat who wins the nomination is the Democrat that is the individual that wins the general election. That's my take.
Okay, I think you're right there. I mean, if you look at history, and I believe that history predicts the future, every time in Virginia where one party won the presidency and was running the first time, the out party won the governorship, as far back as you can go in history. So, and when we had Ben Tribbett on a couple weeks ago, he said the average swing from November to November is about 15. That's the average. It's been as high as over 20, and I think one time it was 12. But he said the average is about 15 or 16. You look at some of the polls now, both Perriello and Northam in that Quinnipiac poll have a lead. The CNU poll had it tied. But then you look at the swing number, and it becomes an uphill battle for the Republican nominee, who we all think is going to be Gillespie. And I get back to Frank Wagner you talked about earlier, Senator Wagner. I thought he was going to be the guy that really was going to give Gillespie a run for his money. Time is running out. Maybe he catches lightning in a bottle at the end. But it's just that Gillespie's got so much of an organization now behind him. It's going to be tough for Wagner to catch lightning in a bottle at the end. But if there was a guy that I thought could give him a tumble, it was certainly him. So I think we're on the same page, although I don't like the way the Northam campaign is being run. Maybe I'm wrong, and we'll see how it plays out.
I agree with you. And then you get this, you look at the bench. You and I talked yesterday or a week ago about, strong D's or R's on the bench. The Democrats have a real weak bench.
Yeah.
You look in the Senate, you look in the House, there are no Ward Armstrongs or Dickie Cranwells around there. There's no leadership. You've got a very weak Democratic bench. A lot of strong R's that are in the wings. And final point, you asked me to weigh in on whether or not who I thought was a strong Democrat or strong Republican in the wings. You ready for this?
Yes.
Republicans, Bill Stanley, very competent, bright guy, somebody who has cross-aisle appeal, hard worker, very smart. Watch out for Bill Stanley in the future. On the Democratic side, he's not in the legislature because I just said there's no strong D's in the legislature. Watch out for Justin Fairfax. Running for lieutenant governor, he's articulate. He's an African-American who has a lot of appeal. He is a former federal prosecutor. There's lots to like about Justin Fairfax. So down the road, look for Bill Stanley and Justin Fairfax.
Do you think Justin is going to win the Democratic primary for lieutenant governor?
There you go. Great question. He should win because he's the better person. He's the better candidate. But remember when I talked about that Democratic clique earlier? it's incestuous, they're not, I don't think, giving Justin the fair look that he should.
They don't
get.
like him. They don't like him.
Yeah, because he's not one of the acolytes.
Right, they don't like him.
Kowtow at the altar of McAuliffe and Kane and Warner, and good for him for having the testosterone to speak up and not just parrot the Democratic Party line, and that's one of the reasons I like him. And I think he is a guy that could catch lightning in the bottle, win the Democratic nomination for lieutenant governor, and then be a candidate for governor in 21.
I don't think there's any question, win or lose. I think if he's the lieutenant governor nominee, he's probably going to win. I think Susan Platt would be a lot more vulnerable than he is. But we'll see how it plays out. But Stanley on the Republican side, Justin Fairfax on the D side, I agree. These are the two up-and-comers, no question. We're with Joe Morrissey, ran for mayor of Richmond 2016, also former member of the House of Delegates in Richmond, now just doing his thing, fighting Joe Morrissey, fighting for you every day. Hey, if you need a lawyer in the central or southeast Virginia area, maybe got a family member, got caught up in something that you need assistance on, 804-737-1096, 804-737-1096. Joe has won over 280 jury trials. That's like an amazing number. And at one point, he won 54 in a row. So that's a pretty good record. Joe, if I was the guy that was dragged off that United Airlines plane, I would have called you up as soon as I got cell phone coverage.
Oh, God.
And right now, you'd be negotiating for me, about a $2 or $3 million settlement, right?
Oh, you're talking about, I think, the high mid seven figures. Listen, CNN put it best. And they said, how do you turn a PR crisis into a total, unadulterated PR disaster? It simply got worse and worse and worse for the parent company of United Airlines. Unbelievable.
So we understand that this guy, this doctor, filed a suit in Chicago immediately today, I think, where they're asking for all the video surveillance and all the tapes and everything to be saved, nothing to be destroyed. So this guy for United, I mean, he has got to be a nightmare for them, right?
He is. But here's the thing. It is a nightmare right now. The company has lost millions of dollars in revenue just from people boycotting it. But one market watch opined that they have lost hundreds of millions of dollars. That's hundreds of millions of dollars in market capital. I mean, their stock dipped 1.1%. But here's what occurred. It just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then the people saw the video that went viral, and you saw this person dragged down the aisle. Who does that? Drag him down the aisle with a bloody nose, with people
like a bouncer
in the background saying, "Oh my God, you don't have to do this. This is the worst thing that I've ever seen. This is so wrong." And then it just got worse and worse for United.
Unbelievable. It's like when we were younger, you'd go into bars and they'd have the bouncer would be there, right? And if you got a little belligerent, the bouncer would come over and say, "Excuse me," tap you on the shoulder. And if you resisted, you got physically thrown out of the place, right?
Yeah, I can't believe you said that, John, because I was telling somebody else was asking me, and another journalist about what I thought about it, and I said I call it the bouncer syndrome. This police officer that came in, he wasn't working for United. He works for the Department of Chicago Transportation. So here's why I call it the bouncer syndrome. What happens?
Syndrome.
Bouncer's hired. The first week he's there, he doesn't get into any altercations. Second week, no altercations. By the third week, he's saying, "I got to earn my wages." So he sees an incident and he escalates it. That's what this Chicago transportation cop did. He saw it and he escalated it. Reached over, got a 69-year-old Chinese descent doctor who didn't want to move because he had his own pass, his own boarding pass, and was lawfully there. And they grab him and pull him over from the window seat, bloody his nose, and drag him down the aisle. And then the Chicago Department of Aviation says, quote, "One of our employees did not follow proper procedure, and he's placed on leave." You think? You think that's not proper procedure? Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Oh, well, Joe, I don't know what they're going to sue for, but what he should have done when he got off the plane is call 804-737-1096.
Well, I'd love to have that case, John.
804-737-1096, Joe. You would have gotten so many millions of dollars off you just to shut this guy up. It would have been, like you said, in the high seven figures, right? $6, $7, $8, $9 million. Well, you could have retired.
So, yeah, because and then the president, the CEO of United, just kept he made it worse. He made it worse with his contradictory statements.
Total botch.
The CEO, David Munoz, said, at first he kind of blamed the passenger, and then the video comes out, and then he does a complete about face. But the toothpaste is out of the tube now. It is a disaster for them.
It is a disaster.
And guess what? China. Guess who United does a ton of business with?
China.
and they're talking about boycotting United over there because they're dragging an expat Chinese, or at least somebody with Chinese descent, off the plane.
Yeah, an expat Chinese.
Everybody's weighing in on it, John. I mean, everybody. You got the U.S. Department of Transportation promising to review the airline's behavior. You've got a group of U.S. senators demanding an accountability. You've got the White House weighing in, saying, it is troubling. I mean, oh boy. The only thing I'm sorry is that David, I think his last name is Deo, the doctor didn't get off the plane in Chicago, and I had and call me up.
I know.
I'd love to.
He should have called you up. All right, Joe. We're out of time. Always good to have you. I want to thank Joe Morrissey for his insight and being with us. Hey, if you need a lawyer, things go down with good people, happens every day. 804-737-1096, Southeast or Central Virginia, 804-737-1096. Fighting Joe Morrissey. Good to have you on, Joe.
John, as always, thanks so much. Have a great day and a good weekend.